It seems like we might be in for a roller coaster of a ride when it comes to the discussion of Modern Warfare 2 and more specifically Warzone 2 this year, because while we're having a hard time tracking down what's going on, it seems like we're not alone in that case, as apparently some details were even news to developers as late as the story breaking on Bloomberg that we talked about a couple of days ago in regards to what's upcoming. So today I want to talk about how this news just keeps getting weirder and weirder, and also how we may have our first indications of a full-fledged reveal for Modern Warfare 2. As we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. What's your thought process behind all of this, and how do you think everything will shape up? If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video in addition to a comment. It helps out the video greatly in the algorithm. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button if you'd like to stay up to date with all things Warzone, Warzone 2, Modern Warfare 2, and all things COD. It's shaping up to be a big year, so stick around here on the channel if you're at all interested. That said, let's jump into it. So to begin, let's talk about the sort of Warzone side of things, because this is where it gets really weird. Let's set the stage here. A few days ago, Jason Schreier broke a story in regards to the future of Call of Duty, more so an immediate future, not necessarily like the long terms, but at least through 2023. This was meant to sort of shape the landscape of the franchise and where we'd see the Microsoft involvement really take over. He prefaced this piece for Bloomberg with a tweet saying, "Activision is committed to releasing at least the next 3 Call of Duty games on PlayStation, even after the Xbox acquisition, according to people familiar with the deal. That's COD 2022, COD 2023, and Warzone 2 in 2023. After that, it gets hazier." Which, as we've broken down, COD 2022 is what is all but confirmed to be Modern Warfare 2 at this point, maybe the worst kept secret out there in the gaming scene. 2023 is slated to be another Treyarch project that is unnamed, and not really a whole much is out there on that, but a Warzone 2 in 2023 is what struck us all by surprise. And here's the thing. Apparently that also took Infinity Ward's dev team by surprise as well, as strange as that sounds. The following discussion and insight comes from industry insiders Tom Henderson and the MW2 Ghost during a casual discussion live stream talking about what they've heard for the project and the year upcoming, looking at and trying to make sense of what all transpired. But apparently Infinity Ward devs were a bit taken aback by this as well. From his sources, Tom stated that Infinity Ward did have an all-hands meeting that discussed the future a bit, including a little bit on Warzone, but more so in the capacity that the DMZ map they were working on would be included with Warzone as of whenever it all went down. That DMZ, the third game modes map, being the contribution that Infinity Ward put forth towards Warzone from the project of Modern Warfare 2, and by all accounts, that still seems to check out, but the new slate would be a part of what's going on and what's going to be ushered in with that contribution, where everything would start fresh based off of what they were putting forward. Now, that window for when that happens is when things get strange, and it's kind of a toss-up right now. By all accounts, it seemed like the integration would be that sort of happening point, with Season 1 being the norm as the last few years, but Schreier suggested 2023 with his report, which is where this discrepancy comes into play, because if we're ushering in a new clean slate for Warzone, then with that sort of making most sense around the anniversary of Warzone in March of 2023, what about that gap period for 4 to 5 months from what we're normally used to seeing with Season 1 integrations to when that clean slate would happen? And this is where it gets weird and where even developers seem a bit confused by what is all going to happen, according to Tom. From their discussion, it seems like we're still seeing some sort of pattern of release here in some capacity. And I mean that in the way that we had Warzone launch Verdansk in March of 2020. Rebirth launched in December of 2020. Verdansk 84 launched in March of 2021. Caldera launched in December of 2021. And right now it is rumored that we'll see another resurgence map for the anniversary of Warzone coming in just a couple of months here, slated right now for a spring release. And again, also something potentially rumored for holiday 2022 or 2023's spring, depending on if they hold that DMZ map and that integration that we see for Modern Warfare 2. But that final bit is that disconnect. Does that mean then we'll have a new DMZ map integrated for Warzone in Season 1 and then coming to Warzone 2 standalone's application in the spring? Or is it something that spring Warzone 2's launch, that then full clean slate is when we'll see that integration, when we'll start to see the next generation here happen, and we won't have any weapon integrations or new map or anything until March of 2023. That we'll just be stuck with Caldera until that point, with no Modern Warfare 2 weaponry coming to Warzone as we know it right now. That disconnect all stems from the fact that right now we're dealing with 2 different games. Warzone 1 is all going to be the content we've had over the last course of nearly 2 years at this point, and then nearly 3 years at that point, with weapons, cosmetics, stats, and everything. While Warzone 2 will include just Modern Warfare 2 weaponry, be next-gen only, and offer up tons of things that we'd hope to see while moving forward for quite some time now at this point. The biggest of that being FOV, something that from his sources actually did seem to be something that was going to be hardware limited, and why we haven't seen it implemented on the air quote quote-unquote last generation of PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of the game. But that timing, that's definitely the biggest question mark and why it turns out to be so weird. So while we have this prospect of two separate game entities, two separate titles, it's being reiterated that even if you're on next generation, you'll be able to play Warzone as we know it right now, Warzone 1 if you will, but you'll still be on that PlayStation 4 application. So lots of moving parts, and that 4 to 5 months of, say, October, November, December to March or April, whenever we see Warzone 2 potentially launch, that's where we're in the dark, and even seemingly some devs are in the dark right now. We're probably not going to get too many concrete details beyond all of that for quite some time, so right now I'm taking it as it is, though the prospect of this massive curveball of maybe not having a proper integration until Warzone 2's launch definitely is something that's interesting. But with the oddity that could be some system shocks to the team at Infinity Ward, what, if anything, happens with Modern Warfare 2? Well, in relation to Warzone, nothing yet, but something of interest did actually come up as of today. Ralph's Valve, a name that at this point should seem familiar, he's an insider who's broken several stories in recent months, tweeted the following: 118 days until the official reveal of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, with a graphic of one of the Modern Warfare QR images and noting 16 weeks. Now, this has all sorts of cool coinciding marketing written on it, but mainly one as a nerd for how cool reveals can be. 16 weeks may not seem like much to you, but 118 days in more specific points will take you to May 30th of 2022. Now, May 30th may not seem like much at first glance, but for those that know, that's the same day that Modern Warfare 2019 was revealed to the world. A possibility of a sort of run-it-back style to marketing this year, and that's pretty cool. Now, it is important to note a few things, though, when we talk about this potential reveal date for Modern Warfare 2. Number one, Ralph even states this, that things like this are subject to change and have changed in the past. May 30th is not set in stone and easily could be adjusted either by bringing it forward or holding it back by a bit. That stuff is all determined by a team that looks at a wide number of variables here: market and social conditions, community interest, the forecast of digital impact, and a ton of other things. So to guarantee this date would be next to impossible, but it's very possible we could narrow it down, and with the nostalgia of it all, if we want to go with that and call it that, it seems like a solid time frame to consider from Infinity Ward wanting to follow up on Modern Warfare 2019's success. Not to mention, this very easily falls in line with reports that we may see things starting earlier this year as opposed to the last 2 years marketing, because of that sort of Vanguard effect, a lack of interest, a lack of hype surrounding the game due to Vanguard's premium title, and also the integration in weaponry in Warzone. Thoughts and feelings, whether you enjoy it or not with Vanguard, World War II just doesn't have the same industry behemoth impact that it used to have 10 to 15 years ago now. And number two, if this reveal is at this point, it could have massive implications for the year ahead. First and foremost, it could absolutely affect how Warzone and seasonal content is distributed. Since Warzone launched, we sort of saw a shift in the marketing so that Warzone was almost entirely unimpeded during the springtime. This is why we saw reveals shift to late summer in Warzone, and why we saw new maps and new content additions happen around that time as well. You give the free-to-play and very heavily invested into Warzone as much spotlight as possible, but with the prospect of a clean slate coming, that actually may give us a chance here, just like Modern Warfare 2019, to have months of build-up hammering away at Modern Warfare 2 is coming in the marketing, instead of just 2 to 3 months kind of rushing everything like we had the last 2 years. And maybe even that could have been something that dealt with the success of the titles. Not as much build-up, not as much marketing and mainstream promotion of, hey, a new Call of Duty game is coming out. I know that this past year in particular was something that I was like, wait a second, we're literally like a week away from the launch and there hasn't really been anything to push it in overall marketing hype. So that's something that could be changing this year. One thing that does make me hopeful about all of this, though, is that these types of predictions stake a lot of credibility in them. So Ralph putting this out there is a huge gamble on his part, so for what it's worth, I think that he fully believes in it. So hopefully we see everything shape up, but that's where we're at here at this now in sort of recent news and developments, with the prospect of Warzone 2 being maybe a little bit weirder than we may have anticipated, and also maybe some insight into when we see our first teasers for Modern Warfare 2 in an official capacity. So that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this here? Do you think we'll see a larger gap period between when Modern Warfare 2 launches? Do you think we'll get an integration around December in Season 1? Or do you think it will be all held off until maybe spring when that Warzone 2 launches? And do you think we'll also start to see the return to form of the traditional Call of Duty marketing era, where we see stuff start in May, April, or June, and then months leading up to it, we have insight into Modern Warfare 2? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts thoughts down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, Modern Warfare 2, anything COD related. We got a lot of stuff up on deck here this year, so make sure you stick it here on the channel. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.